So the next page of notes, what we're going to do is the same thing. So again, I'm not a big fan of this, so I'm not going to do it. Very first thing again is, can you take out a greatest common factor out of 2, 5, and 7 besides 1? You can't. So we're going to multiply 2 and negative 7, which is negative 14. And we list our factors. So 14, 1 times 14 gives me 14, and 2 times 7 gives me 14. And I'm looking for a pair that adds or subtracts to give me 5. So 2 and 7 are going to give me 5, but the only way for me to get a negative 5 is that one of them have to be negative, because 2 plus 7 is 9, but 2 subtract 7 is negative 5. And so that's how I'm going to get there. Now, you always want to double check as well. So 2 and negative 7 gives you a negative 5, which checks out. But is 2 times negative 7 negative 14? Yeah, that checks out as well. If it didn't work out, then you either have the wrong pair or maybe it's prime and you can't factor it, which is also a possibility. But once you get your pair, we draw our box. Our first term goes in our first box. Our last term, including the sign, goes in our last box. And then that pair that we pick goes in the other two boxes. And again, it doesn't matter where. I would just stay consistent. Wherever you choose to put it, continue to do it so that you don't get lost. And then we take greatest common factor. So what goes into 2 and 2? Or 2 is your smaller number and it goes into both of them, so we write it down. They both have an X, so we write it down. We look at negative 7. They both have a negative 7, so we can take it out. And then we look at the other way. So when I look at 2x and negative 7, 2 is smaller. It doesn't divide into 7 evenly, which means 1 is the only number that goes into both of them. But then they both have an X. Same thing here. You've got 2 and negative 7. So 2 is your smaller number. It doesn't divide into negative 7 evenly. So we have to think of a number. 1 is the only number that goes into it. But we write it down because we don't have a letter. Like here, it was 1, but we had a letter in common, so I can write the letter down. And then remember, we always want to double check. 2x times x is 2x squared. 2x times 1 is 2x. Negative 7 times x is negative 7x. Negative 7 times 1 is negative 7. So everything checked out. And so then my answer then is going to be x plus 1 and 2x minus 7. And remember, again, it doesn't matter the order. Just the top is one pair, the side is the other pair. When I look at example 4, again, greatest common factor, when that first term has a negative, you always want to take a negative out. So you're going to take the negative 1 out. That's going to give me positive 4x squared. So it basically just changes everybody's sign because you're dividing everything by a negative. And you want to do that because it makes your life much easier in the long run. So you're always going to take out that negative 1, which is what they're showing in step 1. And then you're going to do what we've been doing, which is I take the first term and the last term and I multiply them together, which is negative 20. I look at my factors of 20, which are 1 and 20, 2 and 10, 4 and 5. And my goal is I'm trying to find a pair that adds, sorry about that. Okay, that adds or subtracts to give me 8. So the pair that works is going to give me 2, is going to be 2 and 10. So they actually will give me 8 by subtraction, because 1 and 20 is 21, 2 and 8 is 12, 4 and 5 is 9. If I subtract 1 and 20, I get 19. If I subtract 10 and 2, I get 2. Subtract 4 and 5, I get 1. And I want 8. So in order to get positive 8, it's get 10 subtract 2. So this is my pair. And then I do my box. And again, I'm not a huge fan of whatever this is. I don't do it that way. So first number goes in the box. Last number goes in the box. So first number, first box, last number, last box. Remember the sign. And then the pair that we picked, which is negative 2 and 10, we're going to do negative 2x in one box and 10x in the other box. And then we take out greatest common factor. So again, we look for the smaller number, which is 2. Does it divide into 4? It does, so we write it down. Do they have a letter in common? They have one x in common, so we write it down. 10 and 5, the smaller number is 5. Does it divide into 10 evenly? It does, so we write it down. We don't divide, we just write it down if it goes in evenly. When we look at the other box, we look at 4 and 10. 4 is your smaller number. Does it divide into 10 evenly? No, it doesn't. But is there a number that divides into 4 and 10 evenly? Yes, there is. It's a 2. So we write it down. And then they both have an X. The other thing that you could do is, let's say you don't remember, like you're struggling with that. You can go backwards. So if I'm trying to get 4 here, 4x squared, 2 times what is 4? It's a 2. X times what is x squared? It's an x. So we can always go backwards that way as well. Same thing with -2 and -5. If I'm not sure, 2 times what number is -2? That would be -1 if I'm not seeing it. And then when I go to write my answer, I have to keep that -1. Okay, that's part of my factors. And then I've got 2x minus 1 and 2x plus 5. My guess is that when you're putting that in the computer, it's not going to like the 1 there. They're probably going to make you just put a negative sign, is my guess. But this has to come in and be part of your solution, and this is my solution. If we're looking at another one, let's see if there's one that you can take out a greatest common factor first. Like if I look at example 1 here, notice that 8 goes into all of them. So you would take out a greatest common factor first. 7, you would need to take out a negative first. But once you take out that negative, then it's still the same thing. It's going to be first times last. Drew with a box, pull something out. We'll stop there.